Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here. Welcome back to another video for Elden Ring. And in this one, I want to talk about my impressions after playing the closed network test for about 10 hours. The closed network test is massive. Like, I did not expect it to be this big. I kind of just thought I would load in, I would maybe run around, fight a couple of optional enemies, and then basically just be funneled towards the boss. No, not at all. There is so much stuff to do. Like, yeah, I mean, you can run to the boss in about half an hour if you want to, but you can also explore a large chunk of the lands between and just find optional bosses, venture into caves, into dungeons. There's a lot of stuff to do. So as a result, I've spent about 10 hours playing, and you could even go further. You could even play for longer, you can level up even further. Honestly, I am very impressed with just how much content they put into this demo, and if this demo is just, or the test should I say, is of course just a small portion of the game, then I am already incredibly excited for the game launch next year. But anyway, in this video, I kind of just want to talk about some of my impressions, the things that I got to experience, the things that I enjoyed. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions? If there's anything you want to know, I will do my best to answer. And of course, if you guys want to see more stuff from Elden Ring, then definitely make sure you subscribe because we've got plenty of content coming your way. Also, for those of you guys that are maybe sort of asking about spoilers, it's a weird one to kind of talk about because a lot of the stuff in the closed network test has kind of been shown in the trailer, or at least sort of in passing, and I'm going to be exploring the world, I'm going to be fighting enemies, and I will of course encounter some of the stuff that roams around the world, so you will see some bosses in this, but in terms of what I guess you would interpret as narrative bosses, there's only really the one you fight at the castle, which is the one they've already kind of spoken about, so I'm just going to kind of give you guys that as a breakdown as to what you're going to see. A lot of it will be open world stuff, but there will be some larger creatures, some bosses, so if that's not the sort of thing you want to see, or you're just like, yeah, I'm not sure, maybe step away and come back later. Anyway, so to begin with, jumping in, I spent most of my playtime playing as the Bloody Wolf. You load into the game, and of course there are 5 presets for the time being. You have like a magical knight, you have a prophet, you have a warrior, the Bloody Wolf, and another one, I forgot the name. Basically, they're just different stat distributions that sort of lean more into different playstyles. I chose the Bloody Wolf because it's kind of the one that resonates mostly with how I typically play Soul-style games. I like lots of strength, I like lots of stamina, basically so I can roll and hit things with my sword. That's kind of how I've always played things, and that's definitely what I wanted to do. So initially you jump in, you kind of run through the sort of tutorial flow, which is fantastic. If you guys haven't played a game like this before, I mean, I would highly recommend doing it, but even so, if you have done, it still introduces you to a few of the new mechanics. A couple of them I will speak about shortly, but of course you run through that flow, and then you go and you exit the tutorial sort of catacombs, so to speak, and then one of the first things is just the world. You open up this doorway, and the transition where you just see the golden tree, you see the lands between, it is such a breathtaking view. It is kind of like, comparison-wise, to when you run up the cave in Breath of the Wild, you run up to that cliff and you just see the world in front of you. I love that vista, like everywhere around this world is fantastic, and that is definitely one of the feelings I got with this, in a very similar manner to Breath of the Wild. I'm not, because I appreciate when it comes to comparisons, people are just like, sometimes people don't like comparisons. I'm not saying this game is Breath of the Wild, alright? What I'm saying is, in the same way that when I played Breath of the Wild, which is a game that I love, I felt compelled to explore every corner. I got that same feeling in the Elden Ring closed network test. The lands between, the sort of open area, is so vibrant, so kind of full of mystery. There's lots of kind of cool things there, and you are rewarded for going exploring. That is already one of the things that I would highly recommend you do when you are in the open area. Just don't follow the golden line to begin with, or follow it if you want and then go back later. The nice thing is, if you're playing the closed network test, even if you go and defeat the boss, you won't kind of get to a screen where it says, thanks for playing, and then your save file is locked. No, you can just play and do whatever the hell you want. So you're free, play it in whatever order you want, but definitely go exploring, because that's one thing that I really enjoyed so far. Like, if you've played previous Souls games, I haven't played all of them, so I'm not a veteran of the series, but I have played a few, and one of the things that I really enjoy about Elden Ring is just how open it is. Like, even in previous Souls games, yes, you have a degree of openness, you know, you can kind of go in different pathways and do things like that, but generally speaking, I think it's kind of agreed that there's a few sort of generic pathways you should go. I'm trying to sort of describe it in a way where I'm not saying previous games were linear, but I'm also not saying they're completely open world, if you know what I mean. And in Elden Ring, you get that open nature. Now, I feel like they've got a good blend here, because when you get into things like the castles, they'll of course be slightly more linear in that fashion, in that there'll be a few pathways, but when you get into the lands between, and you kind of got that freedom to go everywhere, that openness is fantastic. And again, like I said, you are rewarded for it. It's not just an open world for the sake of it and you run around, there's nothing to do. You run around and one area you might go and there might just be like a stone golem that comes out the ground. Then suddenly you go to the swamps and a big ass dragon just flies down. It's like, hey, what's up? You want to fight me? And I'm like, no, thank you, not right now. And then later on you go somewhere and there was like a cool, like mystical looking sort of circle on the ground. You stand there and you get sort of put into this arena. You fight another boss. You wander off towards the shore and you find caves and you go down to there and you find other enemies. And of course, when you defeat those, you get items. And of course, they lead to some pretty cool things. So basically, it's my long roundabout way of saying, make sure you explore because you're rewarded and it feels hella cool. So already, I like that a lot. And of course, factoring in that you have a horse as well, that makes exploration really nice, like the freedom to sort of do that, jump around as well. The freedom just to have the jump ability means that kind of exploring is just even more open than ever before, which is also very, very welcome. Combat on the horse is kind of cool as well. Pretty basic, you know, you got a swing, you got a heavy swing, although I do like the nice touch that if you hold down the heavy swing, you kind of just drag your sword across the ground, which is also super cool. But what I do want to talk about are a couple of combat things that I think are really, really cool. One of them is a thing called guard counter. So I am somebody that is not very good at parrying. I've said it before, it is not my strong suit. And parrying is still present in this game, but there's another thing, which is this kind of guard counter, where basically you bring up your shield, and off the back of guarding, you then press heavy attack, R2, and you kind of see this flash, and you go into like this guard counter, which is like a powerful follow-up attack. Now, it's, of course, a lot easier to land than a parry because you just guard and then follow up. It does, however, leave you a bit vulnerable because you are, you know, like the enemy, if they've got like multiple hits, they do like a flurry attack, they can still keep attacking through your guard. So you're not, like it's not as kind of safe to do as a parry, if you see what I mean. But it is a nice addition. If you kind of like learn to time your attacks or you learn to sort of time your blocks, you can follow up for some nice damage. So that was a nice addition. But honestly, my favorite thing are the Ashes of War. So this is kind of like weapon skills. So when you go through and you either defeat bosses and enemies, or also sometimes you find them from other little creatures, you get these things called Ashes of War, which are basically weapon skills. And the nice thing is you can freely swap them onto your weapons. They don't like replace one another, or at least they didn't in the closed network test. You go and sit at the campfire, or you go and sit at the site of grace, as they're called, and you scroll into the option, and then it's not applicable to all weapons, but some weapons allow you to basically assign one of the Ashes of Grace. So if you play as the Bloody Wolf, the starting ability is like a lightning. You can kind of rain lightning down from where you stand. Meanwhile, you can then swap it to something like the Spirit Greatsword, where you just summon this big-ass greatsword, which looks awesome. And then, of course, when you find different weapons, they also have their own unique skills. Some of them, of course, are tied to that particular type of weapon. So I got one from this sort of chariot, and then it's like this cool, big-ass, like, bronze sword. And you got this move called Ordovis's Vortex, and you basically spin the sword around and slam it down for a big explosion. That's hella cool. And again, there's so many of these. I mean, just in the closed network test alone, I think I experienced, I don't know, like close to 10, give or take, or 8 or 10 or something like that. And this is just a small sample. So I would imagine in the game, there's going to be so many of these. So this is really cool because also when you equip it, it can also change the type of weapon as well. So, you know, you can have like magic weapons and you can switch it more to be like physical weapons and stuff. So you can basically pick and choose these. There's a lot of customization and you can assign those to weapons, to shields, to bows. So there's a lot of very, very cool things that I cannot wait to test out. But yeah, that was a very nice addition to the game. And that, of course, typically happens on L2. What you do is you go into two-handed mode, so you wield your sword with two hands, press L2, perform the ability, it's hella cool. Now, of course, one of the other things as well are these spirit summons. Now, this is the one thing I would say from a feedback point of view. I mean, I'm no expert in balance, all right? But I will say, I feel like maybe these need to be fine-tuned a little bit because sometimes they're quite strong. At the beginning of the game, you can go over to the vendor and you can buy 2 spirit summons. As far as I'm aware, there's only 2 in the closed network test, unless there's one that's hidden somewhere else. There is a sorcerer who doesn't seem to do a great deal, but then you've got the pack of wolves, where you basically summon 3 wolves and they just go run and go ham on whatever they attack. Now, admittedly, they can be killed pretty fast, and if you use them on something like a big dragon, they'll get burnt to cinders. But then you use them on some enemies and they just completely annihilate them. I went into one enemy and it basically took half the life of the boss, and then I just went and finished it off. So, admittedly, on one side, maybe if you are new to these kinds of games and you want a bit of help, they're going to be a fantastic tool. But I will say from a difficulty point of view, I will be interested to see what they do with these long term, because Maybe it's just because some of the enemies that I fought in the demo like aren't necessarily the toughest. I'm sure later on once you get into the game and you get to some of like the key story mechanic heavy bosses, you're probably going to find the spirit summons aren't that useful. But I will say from my time playing them, it's really cool to experience. I love the idea of just summoning them and they kind of just go ham on a boss. It feels really cool. But at the same time, it feels a bit cheesy sometimes when I'm just like, I was getting my butt kicked and now I call my wolves in and now it's an easy mode. So we'll see. I don't really know where, it'd be interesting to kind of see what you guys think about this, whether you sort of think that is a great addition, whether you sort of think it needs to be tuned. But either way, I do like the mechanic behind them. The idea is that, of course, you summon them. You can't summon them everywhere or anywhere. There are times during the game, there's sort of, you'll go into some areas where summons are just not allowed. But from my time playing, there tends to be like more areas where you can summon than you can't, at least from, what I got to experience. But I will say, what I like about them is, again, another collection aspect. Now, when you're playing through the game, not only are you going to play through for the story, not only are you going to want to explore the open world, not only will you be wanting to collect things like Ashes of War for like various different weapon abilities, but then you're also going to want to collect the spirit summons for some even cooler things. And again, in the demo, like I literally got to try a pack of wolves or a not very good sorcerer, but there's going to be some really cool ones later on, so I can't wait to see just how far they go. But for the time being, that's kind of all I have to go on right now. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to experience multiplayer too much in my initial playtime because I was having some issues sort of connecting with people from different regions and stuff, so I plan to sort of jump into that in the coming weekend. So I can't really talk on multiplayer or PvP just yet, but what I will say is from my time playing, from the sort of 10 hours I've invested so far, I have had a blast. I love the world, I love the exploration, I love some of the new mechanics, and just exploring the kind of, the contrast from like the big open world to the just like gloomy castle was really, really nice. So at this stage, outside of potentially questioning the balance of the spirit summons, I don't really have anything else negative to say because I just really enjoyed my time playing it. So this has made me even more excited for the game. Like I was already excited for it launching next year anyway. Having now played this, having now seen just how much exploration potential there is, I'm gonna get lost in this world. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna be Mr. Sidequest who doesn't do the main story because I want to go and explore all the corners. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Anyway, that's it for the time being. Make sure you keep it locked because, again, we've got plenty of Elden Ring content on the channel. I've got loads and loads of videos lined up for you guys to try and show off some different stuff. So if you're on that Elden Ring hype, make sure you keep it locked. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to catch more from us, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest uploads. And if you want somewhere to hang out, play games, or chat all things from games to anime, food to fitness, consider joining the HyperX Gaming Discord.